Have you ever noticed that we're just kind of mean? Like, no, not Park Near North. If you're new, like, we're not a mean church. At least we don't try to be. But like, there's just a lot of meanness in our world. Okay, thank you for the yeah, I'm not alone. I'm not feeling that alone. You know, David Brooks, I'm not sure if any of you read The Atlantic. I love The Atlantic, such good articles in there. But David Brooks recently wrote an article in The Atlantic entitled How America Got So Mean. The original article was entitled Why Americans Are So Awful to One Another. Basically, he's asking the question, how did we become so divisive? So Brooks, what he does in the article, just to summarize it, don't worry, I'm not going to read a whole Atlantic article to you. But Brooks basically says that we're so mean because we have a lack of moral education, which has created a self-referential world. And I think he's right. He says that over the last half century, we as a society have decided that people are naturally good and can be trusted to do their own self-actualization. That morality is not something we develop in communities. It's nurtured by connecting with our authentic self and finding our true inner voice. We just need to let people get in touch with themselves. But getting in touch with ourselves, everyone living their own conflicting truth, will never really bring about unity. It can only ever bring about shallow kumbaya moments that are undone the moment someone makes a competing truth claim. Have you experienced this? It's like, we are inclusive of all religions except the exclusive ones. We believe in autonomy unless your autonomy offends my autonomy. We celebrate diversity, but we play identity politics. We're united, but we're really just in proximity. And so we're mean. Like, we're mean on TikTok, we're mean on Instagram, we're mean on Facebook, we're mean on Twitter, or X, I guess it's called now. I don't fully understand that. I mean, just go to the YouTube comment section, right? Go to the YouTube comment section on any viral video, and you'll have all the proof of how awful and divisive we can be over something as silly as a cat video. And so if you desire unity, as most people do, because disunity just causes so much anxiety, we have a few options, right? One, we can shrug. We can shrug and accept proximity as a cheap substitute for unity. We can try to dominate. Second, we can dominate and dictate unity by instituting uniformity. Or three, I think this is the better option, we can look outside of ourselves for something to be united in. We can reject the mentality that says that we will all be nicer if we just find our true authentic selves. And instead, we can live for something outside of ourselves. I think this is actually the answer that the Apostle Paul gives in the letter to the Philippians, chapter 2. Would you turn there with me, Philippians 2? If you don't have a Bible with you, you can use one of the Bibles under your chairs. We're going to be on page 980 in those Bibles. Philippians 2, we're doing a series that we're calling The Mind of Christ, seeking to understand the mind of Christ. We'll pray and then we'll hop in. Father, meet us this morning through your word. Change us so that we might have the mind of Christ. We pray in Jesus' name. Philippians 2, look there with me. So, if there's any encouragement in Christ, any comfort from love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but to the interest of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus. Now, it's important that we have some background to this text. The year is 60 AD, and a man named Paul, a former adversary of the church who once wanted every Christian killed and silenced, has become one of the loudest evangelists for the church and the gospel. He's currently under house arrest, like literally chained to a Roman guard, a Roman soldier, and writes this letter to a group of Christians in the Macedonian town of Philippi, a Roman colony. Now, the first time he was in Philippi, it's actually a wild story. He was arrested for having, for basically disturbing the peace. But what he did was he freed a little girl who was enslaved and had an evil spirit inside of her. He freed her from this, and her masters got really angry because she was of no use to them anymore. You can find all this in Acts 16. And so he was put in prison then. And then the Lord did an amazing work where he actually led his prison guard to faith in Jesus. It's a crazy story. Now, it's been 10 years, about 10 years since all that happened. And the church has grown in number and resources. Overall, they're really doing pretty well. And so you find in this letter that Paul uses the word joy a ridiculous number of times. Some have said that Philippians is actually the most joyful book in the Bible. In just 104 verses, Paul mentions joy 16 times. But the text that we're focusing on today, there's something interesting about Paul's joy. Do you see it? Look down again with me at verse 2. His joy is incomplete. Would you underline that? Do you see that? Complete my joy. Circle it. Do whatever you have to do. Complete my joy. There's something wrong with his joy in a joy-filled letter. In the most joy-filled letter of the Bible, we find a joy that is incomplete, which should signal us to pay attention and recognize that something important is missing. And what is it? Like Paul's in prison. How will his joy be completed? Will it be by a jailbreak rescue mission? No. Some much needed time off? No. Emotional or financial support? No, those are good. And he actually thanks the Philippian church for that, but that's not it. His joy will be completed by unity. Listen, we don't know everything that was happening in the Philippian church. We do know, though, that there were some divisions over secondary and tertiary issues. But Paul's wanting to make it abundantly clear. Unity is not a secondary or tertiary issue. It's a primary gospel issue. And his joy will not be complete until they are united as they should be. And so he offers a solution. A solution really that they already have in their possession. It's like when you found that new app for your smartphone and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know my phone could do that. The Philippians know that they have access to Jesus. What they've been missing is that they actually have access to the mind of Jesus. Because they are united in Christ, they have access to his mind. And in Christ, true unity can be found even in diversity. I believe Paul really makes this point. He drives this point home in three major ways. True unity is found in divinity, community, and humility. True unity is sourced in divinity. You see, now as we study this text, it's important that we put it in context, which means that first word, look there with me, first word, Philippians 2, that word so is important. Friends, when you're reading the Bible, if you come across the word so, you just start in the middle of a book. When you see so, you should always be asking, so what? The word so is a reminder that this text has a context. These chapter and verse divisions are absolutely artificial. They're not original to the text. And so to avoid this text becoming a pretext, we have to put it in context. If you would, let's look at the section right before. Let's get a better understanding. Verses 27, let's start there. 1:27, Paul writes, only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of you, that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. You see, it's unity talk. And not frightened in anything by your opponents. Okay, we're getting some background. This is a clear sign to them of their destruction, but of your salvation, and that from God. For it has been granted to you that for the sake of Christ, you should not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake. Context. Engaged in the same conflict that you saw I had, and now here I still have. So, meaning our passage is building on the context of suffering. Based on what we know, the Philippian church, for the most part, was not suffering full-on persecution. They were not yet being thrown to the lions or crucified by Nero, but they are experiencing social ostracism and verbal mistreatment. Nevertheless, Paul says that they're suffering for the sake of Christ. And so Paul puts forward some rhetorical statements about what they believe, just to get the conversation going. Statements that the church should say amen to. Let's make them less rhetorical, would you? Last week, Jesse got you to say boo. Maybe this week we can try and say amen. Let's just try it. You ready? First off, he says, if there is any encouragement in Christ, what Paul is asking is that in the midst of the trial and suffering, do you find any encouragement in your relationship with Jesus? Is he not someone who suffered for your sake and conquered suffering? Amen? Any comfort from love? You see, many scholars look at this and believe Paul is making a reference to the love of the Father. As we know, God is love. You have comfort that you are loved by the Father in the Son. Amen? Any participation in the Spirit. The Holy Spirit lives inside of us if we're in Christ, so that we have been united to God. The Spirit prays with us and for us and prompts us and encourages us. Amen? Do you see the Trinity in that statement? Paul is making sure we're on the same page, saying his request to complete his joy is fully based on the church's implicit amen to these Trinitarian truths. Keep looking with me, though. Any affection and sympathy. Here's where the language changes. He's not actually really talking about the Trinity anymore. You see, we had in Christ, from love, in the Spirit, but these last two, affection and sympathy, are a purposefully awkward insert. Affection and sympathy in the original language actually translates bowels and concern. I know it's a weird word. Bowels and concern. Another way of saying this might be stomach ache level care. Do you have this? Have you ever been so upset in your circumstances that your stomach starts to hurt? Some of you felt that this week as you were dropping your kids off to college. Some of you felt that this week as you were saying goodbye to your parents. The Apostle Paul is saying that if you've ever received encouragement from Christ, comfort and love from God, participation in the Spirit, and stomach ache level care, then you should complete his joy. It's as though he's saying that how we love is just as foundational to who we are as who our God is. It's based in this. If you believe this, you should feel this. If you can say amen to the first three, if you have the right orthodoxy, it should be seen in the right orthopraxy. What you believe should affect how you live. Amen? True unity is sourced in divinity. Now, it's not just any divinity, though, that brings unity. That's not what we're getting at here. The reality is that most of the gods offered by this world are actually not united. In Paul's time, the most famous of the gods would have been the Greek pantheon, which would have been characterized by jealousy, vindictiveness, and constant war. Other religions' gods are often singular and territorial. But the God of the Bible is actually really different, because this God, the God we see in Scripture, is unity in diversity. Father, Son, Spirit, three distinct persons, one being. The Father is in the Son is in the Father, and the Spirit is in the Father and the Son. The three are one. And the unity they have, this is what I think Paul is picking up on. This is what he's thinking through. The unity they have has been extended to us. Friends, in John 17, we actually have this famous text. Some of you are shaking your heads. You know where I'm going. It's Jesus' high priestly prayer. Jesus prays for you. Yeah, he prayed for you. We actually don't have that a lot of times in the Bible, right? Like it's always context, like this person's praying for this person's praying for that person. And we're like, okay, well, what does that mean for me? But no, in John 17, Jesus actually prays for you as he prays not just for the people who are here. He says, I pray for those who will believe their word and come to follow me. John 17, it says this, my prayer is not for them alone. He's talking about his disciples and those who are evangelizing. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message. That's many of you today. Like, this is Jesus' prayer for you. How cool is that? We have one of Jesus' prayers for me. You can put your name there, but you shouldn't. You should put everyone's name there. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. Whew. Do you see that? Just as? Ooh, if you have a Bible, I would circle that. Just as you are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one, I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you have sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. Do you want the truest unity? It's got to be based in the truest divinity. Are you not living in and experiencing this unity? You might want to ask yourself, do you truly believe our God? You see, Paul believed this, which is why it's not the first time that he's used these words, stomach ache level concern. Back in chapter 1, verse 8, he says, for God is my witness, how I yearn for you all with the affection of Christ Jesus. Literally, with the guts of Christ Jesus. The Greek word is just so much fun to say. I don't normally try and show my Greek, but hey, let's do it. I'm going to have you say it with me. The word is splaxnon. Yeah, some of you said that with some gruffness. That's right. It's the guts. He's saying literally, he's like, I feel for you with the guts of Christ. Friends, there's another way of talking about Jesus' mind that is yours. This is it. It's his guts. The reality is that your stomach does not have a mind of its own. Do you want true unity? Well, then, do you seek to see others and feel for others as God sees and feels toward them? Do you seek to yearn for others with the affection, with the guts of Christ? Listen, I'm just 3 months in here. I'm new. If you're new, hey, I'm new too. It's going to be fun. And I'm meeting new people every week. It's been so much. It's really been great. You've all been incredibly kind. But the day is going to come when you're going to be upset with me or I'm going to be upset with you. We're still in the honeymoon phase. Soon our evil and brokenness will begin to show. Likely mine already has, and you guys are just being so kind and polite. But that's going to wear off. But I still need you to love me. We still need to love each other. Your spouse who's difficult, your new roommate who is so obnoxious, don't look at them right now, keep eyes up here, eyes up here. Just pretend he didn't say it. That person in your small group who can't seem to be quiet and listen to others, don't look at them. How will you feel toward them? Will you feel with your gut? Or will you feel with the gut of Christ, the affection of Christ, asking the question, how does Jesus want me to feel toward them? Park Near North, we need to be united. And that unity is sourced in divinity. It can't be sourced in ourselves. Bring it to God. Seriously, you just write this down. Ask this question. Lord, show me how I see this person. And show me how you see and feel toward them. True unity is sourced in triune divinity. Let's keep reading. Paul says, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. You see, true unity is sourced in triune divinity, and it requires intentional community. The Philippian church, they utilized the same space, broke the same bread, and even did some of the same things, but they were still lacking. They were not united. See, the Christian life is meant to be lived in unity with others. For some of you, I know you read those words and you kept seeing the word same, 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 and it really starts to freak you out. I mean, does this mean we have to agree on everything? Like we all have to wear beige and khakis, listen to Beethoven, and eat white toast? No, is that the kind of place Park Community Church is? No, we only do that on Tuesdays. No, I'm joking, really. Christianity is not the death of diversity. It's the avenue to true unity in diversity. What Paul is talking about in this text when he says same, I think it'd be better translated, better understood as unison. Maybe some of you were in music groups, maybe still are, right? And you know what that word means, unison. It didn't mean that you sounded the same, it meant that you were playing the same notes. Like the tuba will never sound the same as the violin. They might even play in different octaves, and yet they can play a song in unison despite their diversity of expression. Some of Chicago's best street art murals bring together artists with different techniques and cultural influences to communicate one idea in unison of mind. You see, that's what Paul is going for, a unison of minds. Literally, the words mean thinking the one thing. Thinking the one thing. The priority task is agreement on the truth. And within this, there's unity in love, having the same love. Note, he doesn't say, if you look there, he doesn't say loving the same things, but possessing the same love. It's a love identical with God's love, his own love given to us so that we might act and react as he would. It's a unity of accord. This literally translates, I love that word there actually, where it says full accord. It actually translates like souled. Our souls are knit together. It's the center of our volition and our will. Paul's vision of unity includes mind, emotions, and will. But how do we get there? How do we make this happen? It's got to be an intentional community. Listen, this is why it doesn't work to follow Jesus and church hop. Now hear me, I know that there are some of you here today and you're just checking out Park. That's fine. Maybe you're new to the city and praying about what church God wants you to be on mission with. It's okay. The Bible does not say that you need to go to Park near North in order to be saved. But why take the chance? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But truthfully, I've met a lot of people over the years who, when asked, like, where do you go to church? They say, well, I don't really go to one church. Rather, I belong to the global church, which basically means that they wake up every morning and decide which of 12 churches they're going to go to, or if they're just going to stay in and watch online. Some of you online are saying, ouch right now. That's okay. The problem with this is they're not actually of the same mind, the same love, or in full accord with anyone. You see, we miss this in most of our English translations, but verse 2 is all second person plurals, meaning each of those commands isn't to a you, it's into a yous guys. Or as my southern friends, or Nate says, y'all. Yeah, okay. We're going to go with yous guys because we're in Chicago. You see, it's got to be an intentional community. It can't be singing a song, listening to a sermon, and then rushing to your car to beat everyone else out of the parking lot. We need to seek to match in mind, emotion, and will. Weep with those who weep. Rejoice with those who rejoice. We need to care about each other and the cares that we each have. And so I'll ask, do you have a community here? Are you on mission with us? If you've been calling Park near North your home, who's in your small group? Where do you serve? Who outside of you and your immediate family are you intentionally loving and seeking to be in unity with? Maybe your next step today is to go over to the connection team after the service and ask them about a small group or an opportunity to serve. Maybe your next step is as simple as slowing down, going over to the snack and chat after the service and just saying hi to someone. Listen, I know that's hard for some of you. So let's just practice that for a moment. Ready? Turn to the person next to you. Say hi. Say, it's good to see you. Say, what's your name? See, you've already done it once today. I believe in you, Park Near North. You can do it again. We've gotten that over with. Listen, you've got to start somewhere. Now, after church, try and do that to someone you don't know. I know half of you just did that to your wife or your roommate or your husband. Listen, it might feel weird. It might feel weird, and that's okay, because true unity requires intentional community. It's sourced in Triune Divinity. It requires intentional community. And lastly, it's lived in secure humility. Look at verse 3 with me. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. You see, here's where Paul switches from the plural to the singular. He's been telling the choir to sing in unison, but now he is directing his attention to the third row soprano who seems to have fallen in love with her own voice. Paul wants us to see that unity requires humility, but it also requires individual responsibility. It can't be everyone else's problem. Okay, why am I not getting connected at this church? Well, no one else has connected me. Well, there's some individual responsibility here too. And it has to start with humbling yourself. True unity is lived in secure humility. Can we just be honest about humility for a moment? I mean, I feel like humility is a lot like going to the gym. It's like eating more salads. It's waking up early or limiting screen time. What I mean is, humility is a virtue that we want ourselves and others to have, but when we consider the cost, we don't actually want it. That's why when you see a humble person running for political office, people say things like, yeah, they're too nice to get the job done. We're not a culture that values humility. We value swagger. That's where we place our hope. The humble person is nice, but the one with swagger will lead us to victory. We become a culture that hates compromise and thinks dying to self is just another way of saying losing, which makes sense. Like we hate dying. Like we hate dying. We have a whole industry dedicated to covering up the idea that we are dying. We become a culture that is obsessed with setting and protecting our boundaries. And hear me, listen, I don't think it's wrong to set boundaries for your mental and spiritual health, but I think a lot of us have set our boundaries just way too close to home. I mean, if Jesus were to ask you to follow him, you'd say yes, but when he said, pick up your cross and follow me, you'd say, well, I have a bad back. I don't want to, that looks a little too heavy. You see, in Luke 9, we've got 3 people that want to follow Jesus. But because of their narrow boundaries, they don't go. They want to wait until they're more financially stable. They need they want their family's blessing, or they need their sleep number bed. But Jesus tells them, foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Friends, are your boundaries keeping you from sacrificial humility? Are your boundaries keeping you from counting others more significant than yourself? Are they keeping you from looking to others' interests before your own? Are your boundaries keeping you from humility? No, I think we need to be clear on what humility is. Because sometimes we think that humility is insecurity, it's indecisiveness. But humility is not insecurity. It's not a self-effacing, bashful, and blushing timidity. The reality is that insecurity cannot lead us to humility. It can only lead us to pride. Listen, I want to be honest with you all. Like, you put me on a platform, and this is not at all difficult for me to speak. Pulpit public speaking, like that comes easy to me. But if you ask me to go into a room with people I don't know and nothing to say, no script in front of me, no planned outline, I will feel sick and I will hide. My wife will tell you that that's true. I am incredibly insecure. Growing up, I could recite lines in my play or sing an aria on stage without batting an eye. But my social anxiety would regularly have me taking my lunch tray to a bathroom stall and waiting for the bell to ring for the next period. Listen, I know there are some of you who are like me out there. You're insecure too. Maybe you've grown. Maybe you're dreading this week of going down to the student dining room and trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do here? Listen, we still struggle with the feeling of having to prove our own worth. It's not humility, it's pride. Even our sacrifices can be tainted with the desire to show that we are worthy to be loved. This is not humility. It's pride. It's maneuvering our way into value and worth. And this too needs to die. We need to recognize, friends, there's no such thing as being too humble. I don't know how that got into our vocabulary, but we say this, right? Oh, you're just being too humble. No, you're either appropriately humble or you're fishing for compliments or struggling with insecurity. And what's the response? What are we supposed to do? Like, as a solution, the world tells us you just got to enjoy yourself. Education tells us expand yourself. Pop psychology says fulfill yourself. Humanism says believe in yourself. But God says humble yourself. When insecurity is your driving force, everything you do to tame it or numb it will only reinforce it. The antidote to insecurity is not how we feel about ourselves. It's humility. Because humility is first and foremost not about you. It's about others. That's the mind that is yours in Christ Jesus. The mind of one who rejected selfish ambition. The mind of one who did not count equality as something to be used to his own advantage. The mind of him, Jesus, who did not look to his own interests, but to the interest of others, your interest. He left perfect comfort to enter into a world of splinters, stomach aches, and setbacks. He was born into poverty, forced into being a refugee, beaten and killed and accused falsely. Why? Because of you. Because of his love and desire to be united to you. He knew what would happen to us. He knew the justice that we deserved for our personal evils and complicity with evil. He knew that our allegiance was not to God, but to this world and to ourselves. And so he looked not to his own interests, but to ours, and took our punishment so that if we looked to him, we would live in God's blessed presence. Do you want true unity? It's in lived humility. It's in secure humility. John 13:34 says it well. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. How did he love you? He died for you. How will you die to someone else this week? It's not by being insecure or timid. It's not about who you are. It's about living in the confidence of whose you are and loving them with the same mind, the same love, the same will that is yours in Christ Jesus. Do you want this? Do you crave security? Do you desire community? Are you wanting something more than just vague spirituality? See what Jesus offers, what Paul desires for the church in Christian unity. You see, Paul sees what they're capable of for the sake of the kingdom, and he wants that for them. Paul's joy will be complete when they can storm the gates of hell in unity, dying to self for the sake of their neighbor. He wants them to grow intellectually, numerically, spiritually, and relationally. But he knows for this to really happen, they need to do it in unity. I don't know if you guys like comic strips. I love comic strips. And there's a Peanuts cartoon that's just great where Lucy demanded that her brother Linus change the TV channel. Linus asks her, he says, "What makes you think you can walk right in here and take over?" And Lucy responds, "These 5 fingers. Individually, they're nothing. But when I curl them together like this into a single unit, they form a weapon that is terrible to behold." Linus sighs, turns away, looks at his fingers and says, "Why can't you guys get organized like that?" Church, this is what Paul's saying. Let's get organized. Let's be a single unit and complete the joy. Let's have the mind of Christ. Let's be united by God in community and through humility. Would you pray with me? Father, we are entering into places of division, a world of division, of anger, of subtweets. Lord, we know that we're called to be different. So make us that way, Lord. Unite us. Unite us in mission so that we might see this city changed. Like Pastor Nate was saying before, our mission is to go until there's no place left. Lord, we can only do this together. So work that in our hearts. Work that in our minds. Work that in our volition. We pray in the matchless name of Jesus. Amen.